Hey there, guys. Welcome to Plausible Deniability. All things messed up, all things crazy now because I can't figure out slobs anymore because it all broke on me. So, hopefully this is going to be running as soon as we see whether or not anything runs on the YouTube, because I'm looking over the YouTube and nothing's on there. So right now, which is...
It's starting, but I don't see anything yet.
Yeah, I don't either. So we'll find out in just a bit. So how are you guys doing?
We're on. We're live.
Woo! Johnny's got the fast internet. Yay!
Oh, there we go.
Look, Mom, I'm on the internet.
Yeah, I don't know why my YouTube's not going. But anyway, so how are you guys doing?
I'm so excited to see you guys. I have missed you. I didn't realize it till I saw your faces, and I was like, dude.
Like, we've done this show before, right?
Right. Well, and for those who don't know, Red Dirt D&D is on a little bit of a hiatus. So we have not seen each other from just being, because we usually in the studios once a month. And so I haven't seen, I saw Connor last week because we're working on the Extra Life competitive event. So I saw Connor, and of course Aidyn was there. And Tim is going to be, Carde is going to be one of our DMs for the event. So that'll be a lot of fun. Cool. And of course Mark, who's you'll find on Red Dirt Outlaws. But so I haven't seen Kiri since when did we last? July? Did we last record in July?
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, our last roundtable was virtual, so we just saw each other kind of like this for the last roundtable of campaign 2. So yeah.
So anyway,
he was Brook.
What's that?
Which one of you is Brook?
The boy band one with the blonde hair.
Well, yeah. I mean, our last round.
Love it.
I mean, you have one small chemical accident with a pool in the summer, and like.
See, if I have a chemical accident, I want it to give me speed powers. That's
it better be like Joker or higher.
The Joker or higher, yeah. What is your level of chemical accident? Is it Electro? Because Electro's not cool, man.
Yeah. At this point in my life, just from want, I would probably just take even like Static Shock. He would be good enough. I mean,
there you go.
Or Moist from Dr. Horrible.
Moist. I just make things a little wet. See,
got your mail.
It's fantastic. Yes.
My mom's badass. All I can do is make something damp.
Yeah.
That was a great role.
Funny
fact about that one is every character in that, except for Hammer and Dr. Horrible, are real characters in a small budget comic book series.
Really?
Very nice.
It's not like Marvel or DC, one of the big ones, or one of the smaller ones. Yeah, the guy with the boxing gloves as the pink punch.
Yes.
So I had the PP on there. Yeah, Bad Horse. Everybody at the table at the end of Bad Horse's table, they're all really had a date with Conflict Diamond and Bait and Switch and all that. Yeah. They're all legit characters. Yeah, the whole world really exists.
I have not seen that in like, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 years.
Rewatched a few weeks ago.
I can't find it.
A couple weeks ago.
It's on streaming.
Where do we get it? We bought it on Amazon for like $12.
You just purchased it on Amazon.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Very good. Very good. Very good.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. It's one of the reasons why a lot of people would go off on like Joss Whedon, and I'm like, but Dr. Horrible sing-along blog.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as bad as everything he does can be, Dr. Horrible sing-along blog is so good. It is so phenomenal.
I like Joss Whedon stuff. It's okay. I don't think I paid enough attention to it to know that it's maybe bad. Or like Buffy.
That was
Joss Whedon thing, wasn't it?
I love Buffy.
Yeah.
Great stuff.
Now, all the way up until it jumped the shark with the musical episode. And then from that moment
everything
on, it's
was doing a musical episode. Everything that year was doing one. It was terrible.
But no, that was the most amazing episode they've ever done. That was
that was terrifying.
I'm saying jump. Yeah, I'm saying jump the shark. That was the pinnacle of Buffy. Everything after that, it just fell apart. Of course, it was Josh just wanted to finish it up. He got picked back up by CW or the UPN or whatever that was, and it was a horrible thing. But yeah, and Avengers, I thought was very, very good. Joss Whedon. Yeah. So anyway,
this is not a good enough into this. So
that we've only got 5 people watching. We got S. Jones on there.
Somebody.
Yeah. See, that's exactly why Whedon's. I think it's the behind the scenes stuff that really gets involved with. I don't think it's he's not a J.J. Abrams type of where it's like hit or miss the actual stuff he creates. Whereas Joss Whedon, I don't think there's anything that I've really. Firefly was amazing. Buffy was amazing. So.
Yes.
So the big news. Todd Kendrick talked to Chris Perkins.
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
About this. It's going to be a little book that's going to be coming out in November.
Oh yeah.
Dragons and Dangers.
Dragons and Masters of the Universe.
Something. I don't know. Anyway. Something. Anyway,
so the Dungeon Master's Guide coming out 2024. Now, you've picked up the Player's Handbook, right?
Yeah.
I have acquired a Player's Handbook.
You're welcome.
and I'm loving the setup of the Player's Handbook. It makes me excited for the setup of the Dungeon Master's Guide.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that we talked about a year and a half ago.
Yes.
That if you're going to redo the Dungeon Master's Guide, for the love of God, why do you have world building as chapter 1? Right?
I know. Horrible.
And they evidently, we don't know. We're just hearing from the promo train, but supposedly they've kind of revamped some things and step 1, how to run a game, right?
Yes. Well, and that's they talk about the first chapters, the basics for it's really short for people who've never DM'd before. Just it's the fundamentals, and then how to run a game, chapter 2, how to run combat, how to run interactions, how to run exploration.
And what I'm super excited about, of course, this is from the grognard me of the 80s, is that when I had the Metzner basic red box Dungeons and Dragons, right, the one with the Larry Elmore dragon cover, right, when you open that thing up, it was just a couple of pages in where they talked about some things, and then they were like, let's run through a session, and it was like, here, do this, and now get this dice and roll this, and they had a little mini game right there, and so you could instantly jump into the game. And as my brain rapid fires, the other week or so in the Discord, Red Dirt D&D Discord, we were talking about oh my gosh, the wonderful redheaded actress who also is a gamer, not Rebecca.
Baby Jessica.
Baby Jessica from True Blood, and then also from Daredevil. Anyway, she had this great little interview where she was like, what's this D&D thing you're doing? The guy says, she was like, do you want to play? He's like, maybe. And she's like, okay. And she instantly sets a scene and says, what do you do? Like, she takes him through a three-minute kind of basically verbal choose your own adventure type thing. And he is hooked. He's like, I want to play.
Yep.
So
I think
DMG, they got it, right? They're going to do that.
Yeah. And I think here's the thing is if you know about what happened with Chris Perkins and his small little crew back in 2014, when he was basically tasked by Wizards of the Coast, hey, we need a new edition. You have to do it now. And basically had to throw it out there, completely different from 4E. Just all we wanted something, And so, and he'll tell you, they did not have time or people to put together. They basically took the DM's guide from the first all editions and went, how do I make this, Which, of course, if you look at the DM's guide in first edition,
it's a mess.
Although it's 5th edition, it's still same setup. It's here, when you do this, you should create a world. You should start small. Here's the cosmos. I'm like, what? And then,
what's the political system of your city state in which you.
And here's chart. here's some information, chart. Here's some information. It's a mess. And as much as I love the 5e DM's guide compared to all the other past DM's guides, the 2014 was still chart, mess. Here's this, here's that, and so it's less of a reading manual and more of a how do I flip through this to find the thing I need.
Yeah.
And but I can tell you that Chris Perkins over the past 10 years and his team have become much better writers of manuals. With Tasha's, with Ravenloft, Eberron. They are good books to read. So I'm really excited. And the Player's Handbook is easy to read.
You've been very pleased with it, right?
Yeah.
So
oh yeah, the way it's set up, the glossary at the end, the very beginning.
Yeah, there's a lot of praise for that too. The way it's set up and everything it's not like flip to here, then flip here, then flip here, then flip here, then flip here, just to see what you can do at like what this class can do at this level. You know, things are more closer together. Now you did kind of flip to the back to get some details of stuff, but at least there's something clumped together, so you can just see it all in a snapshot.
Well,
that's
the spell levels.
Too much.
Yeah, the available spells on every at every class instead of having to flip to the back to find out. Yeah, it's wonderful. Yeah, so good.
That's so good.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to the DM's guide. So I'm actually watching. I just watched it like an hour ago. So because I finally had time, and my wife's in the other room, and I'm actually gasping out loud about one thing.
Oh, come on!
I know what it is.
I know what it is too.
I had no idea.
We all guessed about the same thing.
I'm sure it's got to be. So they said they're going to have first off a scenario. They're going to actually have a setting inside the DM's guide. Never been done before. Actually, have a setting inside the DM's guide. I'm like, okay, maybe they're going to create a brand new setting. And then they said it's the 10th anniversary, it's the 50th anniversary, so we're gonna go back to a classic. And I'm like, oh my gosh, they're gonna put Forgotten Realms in there.
The Sword Coast.
I know. And then they said Greyhawk.
Then they said the
Greyhawk.
Yeah,
Greyhawk.
Greyhawk.
Oh my god, I've been waiting for I ran my characters on Saturday night, my players on Saturday night through an entire Greyhawk session because I loved Greyhawk when I was a kid so much.
We're going back to the Flans, boys.
Yes.
Woo!
And it was kind of funny though because Chris was like, they were talking about, a lot of our spells are based off of characters from Greyhawk.
Our characters are from Greyhawk that most people don't realize. Like, Vecna, Mordenkainen.
And he was so funny because he goes, a lot of our heroes come from Greyhawk, like Mordenkainen and Tasha, and a lot of our enemies, like Igwilv and Ayuz. And I'm like, you are aware you just named the same person. Tasha and Igwilv are the exact same person. Just putting that out there.
Which, as a guy who was out of it for a while, I didn't know that for a while in 5e. I was like, Tasha, and then I was like, she's who?
She's Igwilv, yeah. And that's why it's so funny because Tasha does kind of go back and forth as being good and bad, but it was just funny that he's actually mentioned the exact same person as both a hero and a villain.
Yeah. Now it is my fault. Shameless plug, by the way, for Wayfinder Legends. We're going to have a conversation coming up in an episode in the roundtable soon about how you say the elves of the Underdark, that species, right?
No,
how do you pronounce?
Yes, that conversation, right? Because it was Scottish, and it was who was it that yelled out? It was not Drow, it's crap.
It was either Jeremy. It was Hal.
It was Hal.
It's not Scottish, it's crap.
Which then we're like, oh, it's Drow or is it Dro? That was the whole conversation. And then they go, well, it was Scottish, so it must be Drow. And it goes, it's Scottish. It could be Frank. It's a great conversation. That conversation needs to be made into like a meme or something because that was a fabulous conversation. I was driving and I almost crashed. I was laughing so hard. Yes.
Yep. But he says, one of the bad guys they mentioned, I always said, of course, 1980s high school me, I always said Ayaz. And he says like something different.
Ayuz.
ooze or something like
it's ios, or I think he just uses the ooze sound instead of the
Okay, very good.
and I think go
And I
back
was like, oh, is that how you say it?
now what I want to know is, see, my son and I disagree on how you pronounce the planet, because
Earth?
I call it Earth, like the O is silent. Because that's the whole that's what Gary was trying to do. Was
the joke.
It's
right?
Earth, but it's like a fantasy Earth.
Yeah, I had to keep the O in it so that you're saying it's not Earth.
Right, and that's how my son does it. He says
Earth.
O Earth.
Yeah.
And
that's
so
how I've always
I'm
said
wondering if in the Dungeon Master's Guide they're finally going to put all that to rest and actually give it.
I don't know if they will, because I think they may follow along with who wrote the Dritz series, Salvatore.
So R.A. Salvatore.
He was in an interview once, and the interviewer said, "Are you ever going to settle how to pronounce his name?" And he said, "No, I'm not. If it's Dritz or Drizzit." He's like, "I'm never going to settle that argument, and here's why. As long as you're going to keep arguing about it with your friends, you're going to keep talking about it.
Yeah.
And I want you to keep talking about it."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and of course now all of my pronunciations come off of the audiobooks. Wonderfully, I can't remember that guy's name, but he is amazing. But like Menzo Baranzon and Dris Doerden. What's that?
I gotta say, for me, it was always Menzo. So, have you heard Ice-T say it?
Oh, but no, I do remember that. I don't know. I don't remember him saying that. I remember him constantly talking about Drist pulling out his sword. I'm like,
oh no.
So there's a Brook. There's a free audiobook you can get.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's free anymore. It used to be free, and it was a lot of short stories about Drist.
Yeah.
And Ice-T read one, and he would just be like, "I'm talking and I'm talking and I'm chill, and now I have to say Menzo Baranzon."
Menzo
it was like someone took his sheet of paper and like really spaced it out and put hyphens and like a pronunciation guide, because that's exactly how I was reading it. so I can't even remember how I used to say it before that. Now it's just Menzo Baranzon.
I remember from a Red Dirt session when you threw a y'all on the end of it.
Menzo Baranzon.
It just killed me.
The Old West.
Yeah. Okay. So there's so much more to go. I want to talking. So Greyhawk, very excited. Very excited.
Yeah. And evidently there's going to be there is like a world map, and then on the other side is a map of Greyhawk, the city.
The city, yeah.
Oh,
I'm so excited. I'm so excited to go back to Greyhawk. And and with all these third-party groups that Wizards is inviting in, that really we could see Cobalt Press making a Greyhawk adventure, or all these other third parties. I really do think the Wizards are going to go, look, we'll make the settings because that's what we do. We're Wizard. We're the dungeon, we're the dungeon master people, and give the adventures over to all these third party groups, these wonderful third party groups that know how to make adventures. And we could have so many adventures in Greyhawk, exciting.
With the adventures and keep them alive.
Yes.
Settings alive. Yeah.
Because it's hard for the company it appears to be hard for WotC to run the ship and then also do all the staffing with adventures and things underneath, right? And so by giving it like they have in the past to third-party customers, man, it could just be a rock star moment.
Yeah.
They implied that the map was something along the lines of like Greyhawk is yours now, so fill it in.
There may still be some of that element of.
I don't think it's going to be the big, thick Greyhawk book that Gygax put out back in the early '80s. It's not going to be that big.
Night on the front.
Pulling that book out?
What? Oh, I've got it. I mean, I've got that book because
Baldwin.
it's not setting system specific.
Yeah.
It's what we would call lots of fluff and not crunch. It's not a bunch of numbers. It's all concepts.
Yeah. Who's ruling what? What's the government like? What's their imports? What's their exports? That
what's
kind
to
of
the north?
stuff.
What's over these mountains? Yeah.
They don't have to do anything with whether or not you're running 5th edition or 1st edition. Because I grabbed that book and I could run my campaign through,
Elemental Evil or whatever.
Yeah. exactly. So that's the other thing. I mean, we could go back to some of the original 5e adventures that took place in Greyhawk, like the Temple of Elemental Evil, and so very excited about that. So
I know we got a lot to talk about, but briefly, I want to ask you all. We're talking about Greyhawk in the new DMG. Michael, what is your take on the official campaign setting being the multiverse?
That's interesting. Well, I thought they were leading that to that anyway. That is, they were already, when Tasha's came out, they were trying to pull away from Forgotten Realms. Now they'll have a setting book. They'll have a 2-part setting book coming up in about Forgotten Realms, one for players, one for DMs, which I think is a great idea.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah,
and it's gonna be, I think, again, well written. It's not gonna be the Sword Coast Adventurer's Guide. Okay, it's gonna be better than that. So I love the idea that, again, because we're adding all these third parties, so why not? They said there was going to be 2 more settings that they were going to introduce. I think that kind of fell apart as they were trying to build this new edition or this new update, the 2024 update. So
right.
But I think they're eventually going to add new settings, and that just adds to the whole. When they added Spelljammer, that opened everything up with Spelljammer,
for sure.
Because if you go to different worlds, and with Tasha's had that one planar spell where if you had a magic item from one place, you could travel to it. It just opened it up to where it's no longer Sword Coast specific. And I love that idea. What was your thought, Johnny? Did you like the idea, or were you kind of worried about it?
I'm a little worried about it because, as we talked before, they're really good at putting out a setting and then completely abandoning it. And so whenever I hear multiverse, I hear 18 settings are coming, and you're just going to get a little bit of each one of it. I would like for there to be 3 or 4 tight settings over the next 10 years that are constantly expanded on. Give us some Greyhawk, and then give us some Forgotten Realms, and then give us a little bit more Greyhawk, and then give us Dragonlance, and then give us some more Forgotten Realms, and then keep it alive over the course, the run of the version of the 2024, rather than here it is and now it's gone.
Well, but see, I think you're right, but I think with the addition of working with the third parties, I think there's been 5. Yeah. I think I've seen about 5 or 6 fireworks. I've seen about 5 or 6 listed, and that's good. I mean, they're all the top tier third party groups. So adding them and saying, which again, I would much rather go, okay, we're going to make Greyhawk a setting of Greyhawk, and then have these third-party groups go, oh, well, here's an adventure in Greyhawk. Well, here's an adventure in something else, and then later on, here's another adventure in Greyhawk. Here's another. So let Wizards deal with the settings, the worlds, the multiverse.
Let them kick it off, and let the third parties flesh it out.
And
that's great.
So I think adding the third parties has been the stroke of genius for Wizards of the Coast. Because it also doesn't become so territorial like Gary was. Gary was so territorial.
Right. Yeah. And again, as we mentioned in past episodes, that created splinters. So instead of working together, then you suddenly had competition of play my game or your game, right? Play my system or your system. And if they could build that up, that'd be great. Will they say, oh, Green Ronin, you guys get Forgotten Realms, and Kobold Press, you guys get Greyhawk? I don't know. But part of me, I don't want to limit the creativity of everybody across the spectrum, but as long as they've got some consistency, that'd be great, you know.
I think it's going to be more of, I don't think it's going to be, again, territorial, as in you Kobold Press, you do Greyhawk, Ronin, you do Sword Coast. I think it's going to be more of those groups they'll put something together, they'll come to Wizards and go, we have this, and they'll go, yes, and they'll give it the stamp of approval or not.
Yeah. I wonder if they would have like Paizo has, and this is kind of off of the OGL idea too, where they have like community standards or community use. Like, here's the guidelines if you're going to do it this way. And so I could see them maybe contractually, tighter, because it's actually business to business, having to think of like, you have to follow these parameters, but then go.
Well,
right?
And they do already have that with the Adventurers League stuff. That there's Dungeon Craft, I think it's called. they put out a whole what that was parameters of this is how an adventure has. Now that was for adventures, not for full on
Yeah.
adventure. What's the word I'm looking for? Adventure paths. Like
Right.
like what I'm hoping to get from things like Cobalt Press and from Ronin and stuff like that. This will be actually, I just think it's going to be an opportunity for us to get so much more D&D stuff that we just it's it's proof that 5e is not going away.
Yeah, for sure.
So even though I the more I've gotten into following other role playing games, I've realized that they could have gone to a 6e.
And it would have gone super smooth.
And it still would have been backwards compatible. Because Doctor Who 2E is backwards compatible to all its first edition stuff. There's just a few tweaks. Same thing with Star Trek Adventures. They just got their new second edition out, and it's you can run a first edition game.
They took away D6s. That's basically all they did.
Yeah, and so it's and same thing with some of the Star Wars stuff. It's like you can bounce around into so. They could have gone to 6e. I'm glad they didn't. They've said we're still going to stay with 5e, and they put out rules on how you update characters if you need to. By the way, almost all my Adventures League characters have now been updated. So
that's cool.
Michael, have you played Star Trek Adventures?
What's that?
Have you played Star Trek Adventures?
No, I've been reading their books because I bought I went through the Humble Bundle and they have Star Trek Adventures and I bought it and it's
Well, there may have to be something happening someday. Then.
I'm there. If you want to run us through a Star Trek Adventures, I would be down.
Good.
Episodic. Also, Michael, that bundle. Did it come with the captain's log?
You asked me.
If it didn't, I might have a copy that I can put in your hands.
What is the captain's log?
It's how to play it solo by yourself.
Oh no!
What? Yeah. It's a lot of journaling and it's a lot of tables and rolls, but yeah, and then you can take that character and bring it into a game, and such. Yeah.
Yeah, I put.
My suggestion is, because I played them both, is to play the game first before you dive into the solo version of it. Another cool thing about what Modiphius does with them is, like that book, for example, it has when you buy the book, it's the same content inside, but you can buy the original series version where it's those colors and that trim, or you can buy the Deep Space Nine version where it's kind of dark and moody, or you can buy the next gen version. Yeah, they really do well with theming their books, even though it's all the same content on the inside.
First, then, you know what you want. You want all of them, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. I don't think they have the captain's log in what I got, but it's got the starter book. It's got the source. I mean, I love Humble Bundle, and they just put out. In fact, I just recently also spent a little bit more on. There was a Gary Gygax, Lost Worlds of Gary Gygax.
Mm-hmm.
Just a whole bunch of stuff from first edition to fifth edition.
I got that bundle that you're talking about, and today I just saw the Star Trek bundle, and today I just saw that a Vampire the Masquerade bundle dropped. $40. It comes with a physical board game and 2 physical expansions, and then a whole bunch of PDFs.
Oh wow!
Like the main core books, and yeah.
And then I bought a new, and there was a new first edition fantasy from Goodman Games, just their bundle of all their one shots. So I got that, and Anyway, we're off topic completely, but yes, Humble Bundle, go check it out if you haven't.
Nerd.
So much great stuff, and you can get $18 and you get stuff that's like hundreds of dollars, and you're giving money to charity. So,
you know what we're doing here is you're building your library of materials, just like in the DMG where they brought back a first edition concept of building your stronghold.
Bastions. Whoa! I have wanted to be able to have rules for building strongholds forever. Because I remember that in first edition when you got to, like, what is it, 9th?
Yes, 9th level.
Yeah,
ninth level.
You just gotta hand it to you.
When you actually name level, when you had all those little names, when you actually became 9th level, a cleric, 9th level, a wizard.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and so yes, we're gonna have bastions. We're gonna have rules for bastions, rules for strongholds. I think it's great.
And they said that you could, quote, begin the process as early as 5th level, which kind of makes sense. Maybe, it's like a safe house in the city or a shanty shack that no one is living in the woods. I'm not sure, but I'm excited about seeing like, and then you're just into the nerdage of like improvements and buildings and stuff like that.
Well,
so
tier 2 is where you start to build a name for yourself. So having a base of operations of some kind makes sense. And they did that in Waterdeep. They started to do that with Waterdeep, where you had we made ours a coffee shop, but you could also make it a tavern, or you can make it a brothel. You can make it whatever you want.
There you go.
And so there were already rules on how to do that. And we did that in Red Dirt Outlaws. We had our own little coffee shop, So it's. I think the fact that they're just finally putting it in the rules is a fantastic idea.
Yeah. And again, according to what Chris Perkins said in the interview, there'll be that could be something that can kind of run off on its own. Like you'll have a Bastion turn that the DM has been, or an event, a Bastion event, in which the DM says, "Hey, you guys are over here doing this thing, but now back at home base, this thing has happened." And maybe it's a normal thing, maybe it's just news, maybe it's something good, maybe it's a dun dun dun. So
it also, I think, will invest the players into even more into the campaign. More than just what's my character doing at the time.
Yeah. And that's something I was listening to a different podcast, and they were talking about how letting the characters have, or creating for the characters, a home base, right? And even if the module, say like, for example, one called Giant Slayer, doesn't have them continually going back to the small town they started in, as a DM, you can always do that. You can always create events where, they're reconnected back to those inciting incidents, and how that builds for your characters a connection to the world, and it keeps the connection to each other, So.
Well, and I think it's 5th level spells, so like around 9th or 11th level, somewhere around there. Isn't that where you finally start to get like teleportation circle, and things like that? So you can just go back home in an instant.
Oh yeah.
It's a cleric spell, the recall, word of recall.
Oh, word of recall, sure.
So you can just set that up in your stronghold, and I think that might be 4th or 5th level spell.
Mm-hmm.
So that'd be
so that would be like 7th or 8th. Yeah.
So you can just boom, you're constantly going back home.
Yeah, and it's just super sweet.
Yeah.
Now, depending on how well you know the place you left, I mean, you sure want to study carefully before you go, or else you roll that die 100 die, and you're like somewhere. Talk about the multiverse, right?
Yeah, I had it. Well, in my Saturday night group, when they were traveling all over the place. But I gave them a teleportation helmet. For me, I wanted them to have a teleportation helm because I wanted them to be able to. I don't just travel's cool, but after a while you're just like,
way home.
Yeah. So with the guy who had the teleportation, he was just constantly picking up rocks and marking on them. This was here, so that way he could just look at the rock and go and get back to wherever if he needed to. Just poof back to it. Like great job.
Not a bad idea to have like a visual representation with you. Like, okay, I remember that rock sitting out by that tree, and then
Okay, so going on real quick, we also had they talk about tracking sheets, which I think is a fantastic idea. NPCs, settlements, the player bastions, magic items, character information, major conflicts, session planner. I mean, I think new DMs, congratulations.
You bet.
This is gonna be the best thing you'll ever have. Old DMs. I think it's gonna be some
out of it.
Great ideas. You're gonna have some go. I never thought of doing that. Thank you.
Yep. And thank you, Sly Flourish, and all the other folks who made products like that. And then the DMG is Wizards is like, that's awfully smart. We should probably put that in our version of it in the DMG, right?
Exactly. I did love the fact that they go, "Oh, we didn't talk about the first 3 chapters," and Todd Kendrick goes,
Right.
That's because I'm a bad interviewer."
I'm a bad interviewer. Yeah.
But although I don't think so, because it was actually the interview was done correctly. I am an interviewer. You get the exciting stuff out of the way, and then you go, now what is it? How does it start?
Oh, you did that to us right here, Michael Cross.
Right.
You went right to setting and got us excited.
Right.
Table of contents, the setting.
Yeah. But the first 3 chapters talking about the basics, running the game, I think are fantastic. Again, for first-time players or first-time DMs, and every Wizards of the Coast person, whether it's one of the top of Wizards of the Coast or somebody who's running Adventures League, will tell you DMs. We have a massive shortage of dungeon masters,
Mm-hmm.
and I think this is going to change that. This is going to change that game, where people are going to go, "Oh, I want to do this. I want to try this."
Yeah.
And if they can put out good adventures that people want to run, and let me tell you, Adventures League has 10 seasons worth of great material that you can pull from, just one shots, or you can run an entire campaign, you can run an entire adventure path, whatever. This book, I think, that's coming out next month, will be a whole new world for dungeon masters to play with.
Now, is that when they were talking about how, I mean, earlier they mentioned that they had about 3 little mini adventures, like 2-page things or whatever. But then was in this chapter where they just had lots of hooks, adventure idea hooks for different levels. Like, the party finds this, or so-and-so needs this done. And then now DM take that and build it, right? Take the hook.
I think that's going to help out with a person not only being able to look at that, because I don't think it's going to be filled out. Unlike where you would grab a module and you'd have all that information sitting there for you. It's going to be, I think hook. I think it's a good way to put that. Here's a hook. Here's and there's a monster that they could run into. Go pick a monster.
Yeah.
Should be an aberration probably, because you're in that kind of a realm. It's probably going to say something like that.
Yeah.
And that way you can take that form. You're going to see a 1-page adventure and go, I could do that. I can now bring out a blank piece of paper and write it like that. On just my own imagination, which is what we want to do. We eventually want our DMs to be able to run their own worlds.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So. Did we mention the glossary? We did. We mentioned the glossary. The glossary is going to have, like, oh, who's this Mordenkainen guy? And you can flip back to the glossary and be like, Mordenkainen was a great wizard, an archmage, and blah, blah, blah. So
I think that was one of the first things they talked about, even before this 45-minute interview, was the idea of, because one of the biggest things in the player's handbook, I think, is the glossary, the thing in the back.
The rules glossary in the player's handbook. Yeah.
And I think a personnel glossary in the DM's guide is going to change.
A who's who, if you will.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, and especially since we're doing Greyhawk, and most of our who's, they come originally from Greyhawk, although they've been adapted over to Forgotten Realms.
Yeah. For sure.
But it'd be interesting with the weird thing is, it's not, although we always call it Greyhawk, that's actually not the name of the place. It's the name of one city.
That's right.
Because it's actually called Earth or Earth.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the Flans is the Flans the continent, or just the area, the subcontinent, so to speak?
Flanness is the Flan are actually the people. The Flanness.
Thank you. Yes.
Is basically the western, the eastern continent. There's actually a western continent that was never filled out. It was just a bunch of they basically made desert stuff. Now, there was a guy that I followed who basically filled the rest of the world out.
Uh-huh.
And did a wonderful job.
when they brought in the Oriental Adventures, then the Oriental Adventures continent, right, was over there too. Like the Tour and Tulung were basically the Japanese and China analogs were over there on that side of the world as well. And they did on the Oriental Adventures map, they did wrap around, and I think you began to see the edge of the desert. Maybe there was something in between, but yeah. So that's cool.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll fill that much out. I think they'll just stay with the Flynn-S, just because trying to fill out an entire world, like it's why Forgotten Realms is basically stayed in the Sword Coast, is because it's kind of hard to make the rest of the world.
Yeah, and S. Jones in the chat, the Barrier Peaks, like they have that name for a reason. Yeah. We realize, right? It's because Gygax is like, I'm done. Like, there's nothing. You guys figure out the rest.
Yeah. But I think the idea of having an adventure against Ayus and adventuring in Greyhawk, the free city of Greyhawk, returning to the free city of Greyhawk, just phenomenal. And I ran my kids through my Saturday night group through Barrier Peaks, and it was so much fun to see the look on their eyes when they're like, "Is this a spaceship?" Because we all knew it by the time we ran it, because it had been spoiled for us.
Yeah,
but for these younger people who'd never played in the Barrier Peaks and didn't know what that was about, when they walked on, they're like, "This is a spaceship." Like, yeah. And there's laser guns.
There's lasers.
So, very exciting. Very exciting.
It is. It's just, gosh darn you two fellow grognards for sharing those links. And then I watch them and I'm like, gosh darn it, they're going to make me excited about this again, right? Going back to hopefully, we'll see when the book comes, but have they actually taken nostalgia and grabbed it the right way this time, right? Yeah. Have they actually taken something that, Grognard me loves and they're going to say, look, we polished it all up for you. It's clean and shiny again, know? So.
Well, I think again, Chris Perkins kind of said it best. And, he, again, in 2014, he was given the task with a small group of people to make 5th edition as quickly as possible. And he's had 10 years. I mean, they didn't hire somebody new to come in. They hired the guy who wrote the first one.
Yeah.
To write the second one. So he spent 10 years in D&D talking to people at conventions, at gaming events, and then doing the D&D 1 and doing I think that he worked harder than anybody else to listen to what people were asking. And it shows in the player's handbook.
Oh, that's so good. I think
if the PHB were subpar, if the 2024 PHB had been subpar, I wouldn't be as excited about the DM's guide. But that thing is well written. And I'm excited. I was like, so much so that I'm like, they're just like, oh, well, you could still play some of the old 2014. I'm like, why would I? I'm excited about these 2024 classes and subclasses and races. And, I think the only thing that's disappointing, again, I'm a little disappointed that they didn't say anything about the half races.
Right. And I think that for an individual table, that's something you can totally keep, keep that idea of, keep that idea, let that ancestry background, kind of let players choose. I know we got to do a little tweaking there to make them mesh, but let players choose. You want the ancestry, you want the ability points from ancestry, or do you want the ability points from 2024 and background? You can't have both, but you choose one or the other. So
I think and they did a really good job of saying that in the player's handbook about if you pull out an old background or whatever, just make sure you switch the ability scores should come from the background, which I've always thought should have happened anyway.
It makes sense, right? So
although I will say that the only disappointing part was that they got away from that, so you wouldn't pick a certain race to be a certain class because of its ability scores. But now you're picking a certain background to go with a certain class because of the ability scores. Yeah. I mean, I kind of more like the Tasha's idea of just put +2 and +1 or +3 or +1 to 3, you know, of your choice. But I think the new PHB is simpler, and it's going to be so much fun to just run those. But I think that they've had 10 years to put together something really good, and I think they've finally done that. So
Yeah.
Speaking of the Player's Handbook, very quickly, because there was other things we wanted to talk about.
Yes.
Apparently, it's doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Its sales, it's broken records, which the funny thing is, ever since I think was it Tosh, it wasn't Tosh's, was it Eberron? One of those was the biggest seller. It was like finally hit the end. The New York Times bestseller.
Yep. And then Tasha's was their biggest one since that, maybe.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the Player's Handbook comes out, and everybody's buying it, which makes sense because we're running Adventures League's games now at Sanctuary Comics, and Nash has not been able to hold that thing on his shelves. Because people are coming. Cool. That's what players are going to buy immediately. There's two things they're going to buy. They're going to buy the Player's Handbook and dice.
Yep.
You know, because you can't not have those two things.
Yep.
Yeah, even if it's a digital version or a physical version. But I personally think physical versions are better. I love having a digital version so I can carry it around if I need to look at some information. But there's nothing like flipping through pages. You know. Like what is my class going to do? You know, what species do I want to pick? What background do I want to pick? I want to go through it. PDFing, it's not the same.
Yeah. Gotta have that tangible.
Yeah.
If you're gonna look through a tome for knowledge,
right.
It needs to be. You need to look through it, right?
And the way a good brand new Dungeons & Dragons book smells. Oh. Just love
Michael.
that smell.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay to love your new Player's Handbook. Just don't love your new Player's Handbook.
I just love the way it smells. It's like
I
smells
get
like
it, yeah.
a brand new book.
You can never mind. I won't say anything about the succubus in the index.
No.
Although these two guys know exactly what I'm talking about.
Kids, don't look up succubus in the 1E.
Google it right now.
Anyway,
Yes, we had at the time.
And of course,
do you think, and this is marketing, and it's perfectly okay, right? If they did, but do you think they're kind of double dipping in that if a player like buys the bundle of the digital version for DnDBeyond and the hard copy, is that one or two books? What is up with the
What the hell?
How is peace? How is counting to 2 balloons? Mike, Discord, I love you, but jeebers, my computer.
I don't know how that happened. Anyway, so here's the thing.
Celebrate the fact that they sold books. Yay!
Yeah, I do love the fact that if you buy the bundle, it's cheaper. It is cheaper to buy the digital version and the physical version.
Right. And it makes sense. You can have it in both places, right?
Yeah.
You know.
And
Brook, that question has come up a lot. Is that the book sales, but they've also taken it out of like Target and Barnes and Noble and all that stuff. So it's just game stores. So is all this coming from digital? And then that raised the question of if someone bought the bundle where you got the physical and the digital, is that one purchase? So that counts as one, or
Probably
is that
not.
I bought 2 books?
Probably
the same book,
I think it's considered 2 books because you are paying an extra price for it.
So 100 people buy the bundle. That's 200 sales,
Yeah.
but only 100 people have it.
Yeah, but you do have a physical and a digital version too. I mean,
the thought is there's more digital. People are going more digital with it because You know, like you said, Michael, you go into your local game store and they're out, and you're like, well, time to buy the bullet, and you just go home and buy the digital.
Yeah.
So you have it now, you know.
Well, and I'll even go further than that, because for me, I did not buy the physical / digital bundle. I bought the digital bundle. I pre-ordered the PHB DM's Guide and Monsters Manual digital bundle.
All digital. Okay.
The player's handbook that I have came
And where
from.
did you get that from?
I got that from Gen Con. So excited.
Look up. I just love to see his face light up when
I've got the sticker on the back of that player's handbook, and I'm very proud that I had this a month ahead of time. But so I did. So if you think about that, I did buy a digital version, and I bought a physical version. When I've got the digital version of the DM's Guide, and I told Kimberly, I'm holding off. I'm not buying the physical version. So hey, Christmas.
Oh,
So I'll get it, you know, I will buy a physical version of the Monsters Manual, even though I already have the because I want it, just because I want a physical copy of the book. I love the fact that I don't have to carry those books with me whenever I go gaming. I can pull it up right on DnDBeyond for the information that I need. But making a character, or making a campaign, or finding a monster. You cannot go on a DnDBeyond and find a good monster through DnDBeyond. You have to open up the Monsters Manual, and go, that one looks really cool. I want to make that my end monster, my end BBEG, and then build around that monster. So, there is still, and I love the fact there was concern that Wizards was going to go completely digital.
Right.
And I love the fact that they're going, no, we are investing very heavily in digital, but physical copies, physical pen and paper, when they talk about these tracking sheets, you're not going to write in the book. You're going to photocopy that, and you're going to use that,
photocopy.
It's still a physical. You're going to photocopy. Yeah. You're going to Xerox it.
You're going to get the Ditto machine out.
Ditto machine.
Oh my God. First, Brook sniffed the Ditto machine.
Oh, yeah.
We're old. We're old.
We're all old.
Is this episode over yet?
So
we spent almost the entire time talking about one book.
Yeah. So I think the fact that they are still staying close to pen and paper, or pencil and paper, and with regular physical books, I think is a great idea. Again, we want to do video because we want to do virtual, because there are people who can't play in groups. So I'm glad that DnDBeyond is doing that. I'm glad that they've got those virtual books, but there's still nothing to be said for that actual physical D&D books.
When the robot apocalypse comes, we can all huddle around with our wooden bone carved rock dice, and we can still play.
Okay, very quickly. Also, have you guys seen campaign 3 or season 3 of Critical Role?
I saw the trailer.
I saw the first episode.
Mm-hmm. Was there a ziggurat?
No. No, they jump right into the action this time, though.
I bet.
It is crazy insane, and of course the animation is still phenomenal.
If they stick to campaign 1, this is going to be a pretty wrenching season.
Yeah.
People have mentioned that, and and of course, I never got into listening to the show because it was just so overwhelming. 4-hour episodes, and there's so many of them. So I really only know Critical Role through, I know of it, but the story I only know from video, from the cartoon, right?
Vox Machina, yeah.
And so do you think it's going to follow closely? Does it appear so far from what you two guys know? Because you're much more versed in Critical Role than I am.
Well, I'm more versed in campaign 2.
So campaign 1, it's they're following closely to character stories and character arcs. So it's. Mm-hmm. I can't talk. I can't.
And here's the thing.
Yeah, people say there's a very, very sad. I mean,
There's a thing.
The dice tell the story, and they say there's a thing.
Johnny, the first episode. I mean, because if you know the ending, which I also do know the ending of campaign 1, there are moments in the first episode where you're just like,
very telling moments.
If you know the ending, story. It's gonna.
I love the story.
So it's but I'm looking forward to them doing the Mighty Nine, because that's one I know. I know that one's so much better. I almost followed that all the way through. So that was when they were very, very popular. Now campaign 3, I don't know anything about that. I watched the first 2 episodes and went, okay. So I'm looking forward to the Mighty Nine, and I think, but yes, the first episode jumped right into it, and it's a lot of fun. Let's see, what else were we going to talk about?
That's fantastic. In other news, evidently Baldur's Gate has miniatures coming their way as well. So other crossover thingamajiggers. So.
That thing was so popular. I think, and Aidyn's made this argument, and I think he's absolutely right. Had the D&D movie come out at the same time as Baldur's Gate 3, it would have done a lot better in the theater. Because Baldur's Gate 3 was, it was Game of the Year. It won Game of the Year. So
yeah, that's true.
It's kind of too bad that those two didn't kind of mesh a little bit better.
There you go. I think I have a picture. Let me see if I have a spiffy picture. I believe I do. So, woohoo! Maybe. Come on.
Maybe.
Here we go. I was thinking about it. It's asking me to make selections.
Yeah. See.
There we go. Yay! So, no, it shared us. No. What a weird thing.
There we go.
No,
that's not us at all.
That's.
Close that down.
I'm uncomfortable.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there. Let me go here. Stop streaming. Thank you very much. How'd the stream go? Not well. So
we look fantastic. I don't know what that was. So okay, very quickly.
I don't know what's going on there. So
very excited about that. Plus, I'm always excited whenever they do those crossover type things, because maybe it'll get somebody who was really into Baldur's Gate 3. The game go, there's actually a Dungeons and Dragons thing I can go play. So maybe they'll actually sit down and play the game. Like people who play Magic the Gathering and went, here's Theros, or here's, when they would put all those settings that were Magic the Gathering. So, that looks even weirder on YouTube.
I'll have to go back and watch later just to see.
Just see this weird thing.
Remember when the mirrors are next to the mirrors and you just see like infinity,
Yeah. We when you put up the OBS and it's on the screen, it's on the one that you put the
right. Yeah.
We have been taking a break from Red Dirt D&D, and we are returning to recording. By the time we do Plausible Deniability next time, we will have recorded.
The
first 4 episodes of campaign 3.
Woohoo! So, I will have seen that hair in person.
You've seen that bleach blonde hair,
fake golden surfer locks.
Brook is DMing. Yes. Brook is our dungeon master for campaign 3. We are returning to our Americana roots.
Yes.
Very, very excited about campaign 3. So tell all your friends. And I've talked to people who are like they really liked this break because they've been able to catch up. A lot of them are like, I finally finished campaign 2. It can be, even for our only 40-minute long episodes, it can be a lot. And so this has gotten them a chance, but it's also, I've been jonesing to return to play with everybody. So very excited about that. And
we're gonna have a super good time. We're gonna back to our Americana roots. We're gonna kind of, if we think about it in a timeline, we're gonna go forward in time just a little bit, right? Just a little bit. If you're let's say if you're fans of, say, like, some 1880s show or something like that. 1890s in the city instead of out in the country. It's going to be fun. It's going to be
a little
fun.
more urban based, so that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put this out before we leave. I'm going to put this out to the Peanut Gallery because I brought this up and I haven't gotten really good feedback from these two guys. But I'm wondering what you guys think about doing a Plausible Deniability live at like a gaming event. So I'm
let us know what you think of that.
Put it in the doobly doo. Let us know what you think about us doing Plausible Deniability live.
You think kind of like a talk show type format,
Yes.
just kind of here bantering the audience.
It can be like, you get a D20 and you get a D20. And like,
We've got D20s hand out.
Yeah.
Check under your seat. Is there a character sheet there? Woo!
Yeah.
No,
You're a
we
wizard, Harry.
We put an envelope and inside it is like a coupon for a free reroll that you can present to your DM.
I love that idea.
Courtesy of Red Dirt D&D. Yeah.
I love that idea. So make sure to check out Mysteries of Beatrix. Check out Red Dirt Outlaws. We're now facing off against Vecna. Kind of horrifying. So check that out on here on the YouTube. And we will be back hopefully in 2 weeks. And if you do want to check us out live, we will be at
Stillwater Library, October 26th. They have actually a multi-day event called Lexicon. Get it? Lexicon at the Stillwater Library. And we'll be doing the family-friendly version of Red Dirt RPG Live, or Drinks and Dragons, as you might want to call it sometimes. So we'll be doing the family-friendly version of that. We had a great time doing that version at MiracleCon. So I imagine the Dice Fairy will be back there again. So bring out the kids, bring out your grandma, get her into D&D at the Stillwater. October 26th at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, in Stillwater. So Stillwater Public Library. All right, guys. You take care. I'm going to go to sleep.